So today the topic that we have is control on prices. Now this is where government will like to interfere in the market, okay? They think that the prices are too high or too low, or usually too high, right? And they try to interfere in the market. So let's move on to it and see what they are. Now, there are two types of things they can actually do. It can be a bit confusing for students, but just uh, just just make little notes as we go, and if you have any questions, just ask me about those questions, okay? Now, the idea is the first thing we're going to look is what we call price ceiling. Now, what is price ceiling? Price ceiling is a legal maximum a individual can put on a service or a product. That's the price they can put on it. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me just give a very simple example. If you look at Ajman, if the government of Ajman thinks that the rent prices are going up too fast, they can actually put what they call a rent control, or another name, price ceiling. Now, it is called maximum price. What is the maximum price means is, if the maximum price, let's say for one bedroom apartment is 30,000 dirhams per year, that's the maximum they can do. That's what we call a price ceiling. They can go up to 30,000. Okay, they can charge under the 30,000, that's absolutely fine, but the maximum they can go is 30,000 per year for one bedroom apartment. This is what we mean by price ceiling. Price flooring, on the other hand, is that minimum that you have to pay to a person or who works for you, let's say. So if government Ajman thinks that, okay, the people who wash your car in the university grounds, that they are paid very low, so they can actually put a price floor and pass a law saying that minimum you have to pay them 2,000 dirhams per month. Okay? And that's what we call a legal minimum on the price, or what we call price floor. Now, example is minimum. The minimum you have to pay them 2,000. You can pay over 2,000, that's okay, but you're not allowed to pay under 2,000. That's what we mean by a price floor. And then they also try to interfere in the market through taxes, okay? For example, if you think about cigarettes, they try to put taxes on the cigarettes to reduce smoking and sugary drinks and all that sort of stuff, right? Government. So these are the three types of interference we're going to think about in this course, or in this chapter at least. And we're going to use demand and supply model. Now remember, demand and supply that you have applies to everything, and it goes through all the economics from now on. It's all demand and supply. Everything can be represented in demand and supply. All right, good. So is everybody okay so far? What I just started off, just give you a brief idea. Can I move on to the next part? More detailed part? Yep. Can if somebody gives me a yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, Fatima.
Yes, doctor.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, let's go ahead. Now look at the market for apartments. Yep, let's think about Ajman here. So this is the rental price of the apartment. That will be the rent that you pay, let's say, every month. And this is how many apartments are available in Ajman, let's say. Now, this is the demand. Demand is by the people. People moving from demand, people moving from Dubai, and people moving from Sharjah, moving into, Ajman, so they cause the demand. Supply is the people, the owners of those apartments. And when under normal circumstances, you have an equilibrium price here, you have 800 USD per month, let's say, and 300 of those apartments are trading in the market. This is equilibrium. There's nothing going on. Everything is fine. Remember, this is Adam Smith's free market. There's nothing happening here at the moment. Everything is fine. There is no shortage, no surplus. Remember, equilibrium means there is a situation where there is no shortage, there is no surplus. And then we have a price ceiling. Now, let me just test you here. Price ceiling is going to come. Government is going to think that this 800 is too high, right? So what do they bring up? They bring a law saying that, hey, from now onwards, none of the apartments, so these one-bedroom apartment, none of your landlords can charge 800. It will be lower than that. Lower than that. So how is that going to look in the graph here? How are we going to show the lower? Because demand and supply are not going to move because they are happening because of the people moving in here and the amount of people who are here that are renting the apartment. It's the demand and supply. Nobody can change that, right? So this is a legal law that the government passes. So what does it look like? Now, they are putting a price ceiling of 1,000. Does that make sense? A price ceiling is usually when something is too high. So if 800 is too high, you put 1,000. Is that going to have any effect on the market here? No, because the equilibrium is already 800, right? Nobody's going to do 1,000 because what happens if somebody puts 1,000? Demand will be lower than supply. Remember, there will be surplus. So that's not going to happen. So this price ceiling is not an effective price ceiling because it's already above. The whole idea of price ceiling is to reduce the rent. So this is useless. This is not going to have any effect in the market, and we call this non-binding, okay? We call this not binding. That means it's not going to have any effect on the market. But the actual is this one here. This is what we call a binding price ceiling. That is, the government is 800, everybody is happy, but the government thinks it's too high, so they put a law saying 500. That means you cannot go over this 500. So this is what we call a binding price ceiling. Binding means it's effective, right? Binding constraint. That means nobody can go above that. It will be legal. Now, this is going to have an effect in the market, and this is going to influence the demand and supply. Now, what's going to happen? Who will be happy here? Well, the customers will be happy. Those who want a house will be happy, but the people who supply the apartments will not be happy. So this is what's going to happen in that case. See supply here? At 500, people will say, well, I'm not going to get my apartment. I'm going to just sell it. I'm not going to be. So a lot of people will move from Ajman to, let's say, some other emirate. So supply of the apartment will only be 250. But because the government passed the law, people all over the other emirates, especially Dubai, Sharjah, expensive places, right? They say, oh yeah, Ajman got a price ceiling of only 500. We're going to move there. So there's much more demand here. So notice 400 is the demand and 250 is the supply. So that's going to have a shortage, right? So shortage of was, you got 150, shortage of 150 apartments. So that means people will be waiting in Ajman to get an apartment because there is more demand than supply. That is, there is a shortage. So this is what we call a price ceiling. Any question on this, please? Come to the mic and ask me. I'll explain that to you.
Doctor, I kind of understood and did not understand at the same time. First of all, can you give us like more examples? And second of all, you said if it's 1,000, there won't be effect. But how is this possible? Like in a real life situation, I cannot imagine that it has absolutely no effect.
Sure. Okay, yeah. So it's that 1,000 one that you have your question, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So first let's go. This is a very common question, so this is good that you asked. So what's happening here is, let me just raise up your voice a little bit here. Okay, just see here. Okay. Now, okay, so price ceiling. Price ceiling means government says you cannot charge rent more than this particular amount. They will specify a legal limit, okay? Now, before they do that, look at the market. What's happening at the moment? What is the rent here at the moment? So, Sarah, can you tell me what is the rent here at the moment before government comes in?
It's an equilibrium state. It's
Yeah,
$800.
it's 800, right?
Yes.
Is there any shortage? Is there any surplus here?
No, no.
No, so everybody's happy. The government can think that, okay, well, this is too high. So technically, they will put out a price ceiling saying that this 800 is too high, so they should need to reduce it. And in this case, this makes sense, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the question is, this is a good one. This is what the effective is. This not binding part is something different. So here, think about it. What is government saying? Now, think about this. A big distinction here. People get confused. Government is not saying that you must charge 1,000. It's not saying that. It's saying that you cannot charge more than 1,000. You understand? Now, you're thinking that, oh, the landlords want to charge more money because they can get more money. No, they will not. Because imagine if they charge 1,000, there will be only small amount of demand and there will be very high supply here. There will be surplus, so it will come back to the equilibrium, right? So they're not going to do that. So this price ceiling is not going to have any effect on the market because at 800, there is no shortage of surplus. Why would somebody go and charge 1,000? Is that making sense? Please ask me where are you stuck here?
Doctor, just to double check for the scenario. You said that in the scenario the government said the rent price should not exceed 1,000, right? Not
Correct. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it
Understand.
cannot exceed. Now, remember two different things here. Government is not saying that you must charge 1,000. No, they can say that you can charge anywhere under the 1,000, not more than that. That's what they're saying.
Okay. And then
So,
you reduce the rent price.
yeah. So currently the rent price is 800, right?
Exactly.
That's below 1,000 dirhams in $1,000 anyway. So why would anybody change that, right?
Okay.
That's the reason we say it's not effective. It's not binding.
Okay.
Well, in actual fact, government doesn't do this. They're not that stupid that they will charge you higher than the equilibrium. But this is just for you to explain, not binding. So this is not going to have any effect. This is going to have an effect, right? And it's going to create a shortage of 150. Now, the question here is, the whole idea why the government did this was to help poor people, right? So that they can
Yes.
afford the rent. But now, what is happening now? There's a shortage. That means those poor people have to stand in queue to get a house. There's not enough houses here, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So is it really helping?
Yeah, kind of. Yes.
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of a difficult thing. Some people might get into it, some people might not get into it. So you don't really know whether it's really helping or not, right? So economists usually say that, any kind of interference is not really good. There's different way to address this issue of high rent prices, but for the time being, just understand this: government trying to interfere, it forced down to 500. The landlords are not happy. The uh, the renters are happy, but they become happy. It's very short lived because they come to the market, they can't find a house because there's not enough rent, not real enough property. So there's a shortage.
Okay, got it. Thank you, doctor.
No worries. Please do ask question. It's very important because I don't like teaching online because I can't see you. I can't look at your expression. So if you have any question, please. Anybody else have any question on this? All right. Good. Let's move on. This is exactly the same thing they're actually showing. It's just long run. You don't need to worry about that. This is the same thing, shortage. Okay. Now, there will be a question in the midterm, perhaps, saying that, okay, what are the well, I can ask you what is the benefit of government putting this price ceiling? You can say that, oh, they want to help poor people, but there are some disadvantage of that as well. What are those disadvantages? Disadvantage first is that there's a long line of people. There is shortage. So people are just waiting. If there's one bedroom apartment there, 10, 15, 20 people come at the same time to have a look. And then also, the second thing that has the disadvantage for this, or kind of a ill effect or a not so good effect of this price ceiling, is what we call discrimination. Now, what do you mean by discrimination here? Discrimination means the landlord will be discriminating in giving the house. He said, okay, I have this house. I know I have a lot of power and there's a lot more people waiting. So that's them, give them a lot of choices. So they say, okay, I'm only going to give people to this particular nationality. I'm only going to give this rent house to, to person who earns this much or person who come from this country or whatever, right? Because the reason they can do this is that there's not enough competition, right? So they have lots of power. So two consequences, or we can call not so good consequences of this price ceiling is a lot of people waiting, long lines, and second is discrimination according to sellers buyers. It can discrimination of any sort, racial or citizenship or income wise, whatever it is. So, well, the whole idea is good, but it can actually cause this as well and might not actually help the people, poor people, because there's a shortage of house. Because if there's a shortage, most likely you're not going to give the landlords are not going to give the house to poor people, right? Because they think, oh, they might not pay my rent. Does that mean what it sort of makes sense? What I'm trying to say here? Yeah. Okay. Good. Now, the second is what we are talking about is for the price flooring. Now, let's think about the market for unskilled labor. What is unskilled labor? Unskilled labor is, as exactly as I said, unskilled doesn't mean they don't really have any skill in the sense that they are useless. We mean that they don't do professional work, right? People washing car outside, and they work very hard, but you can also wash cars, right? It's not really difficult to learn. So we look at the market for unskilled labor and see what government does there. So have a look here. So you have your wage here, which is the price for that labor, right? How much do you get paid and how many amount of people are car washing? And there's a demand. You guys demand those labor, right, to wash your cars. And this is the supply. Those people who wash the car are the suppliers. Before any government interference, here we go. There are 500 car washers, and the amount of money they get per hour is $6 per hour. Okay? Everybody's equilibrium. Now, the government thinks, hey, we are paying too low to them. So they need to put a price flooring, right? So they put a straight line. Can somebody tell me, will the straight line to be on the top of this equilibrium that is here, or is going to be down for this price flooring to be effective? To be effective. Sarah?
Will it be down?
No, they're thinking that 6 is too low.
Okay.
So will it be above or under?
6 is too low. It will be above.
Correct, exactly. That's right. So you understand what government's intention is. They're saying that it is 6, that is too low. I want to put something, I want to increase the weight. So a binding will be on the top. Oh, but this 5, okay, that's bottom. That doesn't make sense, right? So this is what we call a non-binding, just like the other one, right? This is a non-binding because they already paid up to 6 anyway. So why will somebody pay 5? So this is non-binding. And this is what we call the effective or the binding, 7.25. Yep. So that makes sense. The government will say from today onwards, everybody has to pay these car washing people $7.25 per hour. Now, somebody's going to be happy, somebody's not going to be happy. Now, the car people are going to be very, very happy, right? So they're going to come and all work, and there will be 550 people who want to wash the car. But you guys who pay the money think, oh, it's too expensive now. We're just gonna wash our car somewhere else, in a garage or something like that. Or I'm gonna wash my own car, right? So 550 is supplied. 550 car washers are there, but there's only 400 cars to wash. So there is about 150 that is actually surplus, labor surplus. Or in other words, labor surplus means these people are standing there without any job. We call that unemployment. Does that make sense? Yep. Does that make sense?
No.
Is that okay?
I don't understand.
Hiba, okay, Hiba. Okay, good. Let me tell you. Did you understand the first part?
Yes.
Which part particular? Did you don't understand this part or the previous when I said non-binding and binding?
This part, this part.
This part, okay. All right, have a look. Where are you particularly confused? Just tell me.
I guess I'm more confused on the binding constraint part.
Yeah,
I
okay,
still
all right. Well, let's have a look. So we need to look at this scenario here that what does government really want to do? Why are they doing what they want to do? So currently, the car washes are paid $6 per hour. And there are 500 car washes there, right? This was equilibrium. And now they say, okay, well, the $6 is too low. They need to have enough money to survive, okay? Accommodation price is going up, the rental price is going up, the grocery is going up, we need to pay them. As the government says, from tomorrow onwards, they need to be paid 7.25 per hour. Minimum that they have to pay, right? 7.25 and above, that's fine. But we'll go with 7.25 here. Now, when they tell 7.25, say, this is a demand, right? This is a demand line. Who demands these car washes? You guys. Are you going to be happy about this, that you have to pay more? No. So only 400 labor is demanded. I mean, 400 car washes are demanded. The supply, they all become happy. They say, oh, wow, become a car washer. Come, become a car washer, right? Because you get paid 7.25 per hour. So it'll be 550 there, way too much in the market. And the gap between them is what we call a labor surplus. That means there are more car washers than how many cars are available. So there are some of the labor just sitting there not doing anything, what we call labor surplus, or we call them unemployment. Is that okay, Hiba? Any particular area you're not sure about now?
No, I have understood. Thank you, doctor.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Yeah, good. Anybody else? Very important that you understand. It's a classic case of confusion.
Doctor, it's not confusion, but so based on what I understood, most of the time in price floors, surplus happen and the price ceiling shortage happen.
Yes, correct. Exactly. If they are effective, yes.
Okay.
Very simple, right? I own an apartment, let's say, and I'm charging an equilibrium price. I'm charging whatever I'm charging. The government all of a sudden comes in and say that, oh, you can't charge too much. They push me down. What will I do? It's not a good investment for me, right? I leave the market. Just like that, many of them will leave the market. So what happened? That causes shortage, right?
Yes.
And the same thing with the laborers, if I'm the laborer, oh yeah, from 6 to 7.25 is big. So I wanted to work more. More people go into this car business. But on the other hand, people who pay for the car washing are not happy. So they're reduced. So you have too many people out there looking for jobs, but they don't have job because the price is too high. So that's what we call unemployment. This is the reason the government doesn't increase the salary very much, right? Because if the salary goes up, right, then what happens then? Then there is, you're not going to buy that much stuff so much, right? So the government can't just keep on going. If somebody's wage goes up, you have to pay more to them, then your product price goes up, and all sorts of things happen. That's why you don't really do. They do that in different countries. They do that, but they do little by little anyway. So anyway, that is price ceiling and price flooring, and I hope this is clear. Any question before we move to the next part? All right, good. So you call it unemployment, or you call that a minimum wage, right? Because that's the minimum you have to pay. All right, let's have a look. Let's have this active learning thing here. So we have a price control graph here. This is the market for hotel rooms, okay? So demand for hotel rooms, supply for hotel room. Who demands it? Tourists. Who supplies it? The companies. They're going to put a $90 price ceiling. Now remember what price ceiling is? That the government thinks, hey, you're charging too much for the tourists. They're not coming here. They need to reduce it. Yep. So you see equilibrium here at the moment is 100, right? Which is fine. Now to be price ceiling, to be effective, you need to put it down because that's the whole idea. Now what happens when you put it down? See here, supply is only 90 and demand is 120. So there's about 30 hotel or the rooms that are not there. So that is a shortage, right? This creates a shortage. Does that make sense? You okay with it, Hiba and Sarah? You okay?
Kind of trying to get
Yeah.
it like
Yeah. So Sarah, so we're looking at it. So at the moment, once again, I'll go. 100 is the price of the hotel, and there are 100 in the market. Equilibrium, there is nobody. 100 hotel rooms, 100 is the price for per room, right? The government comes in and put a price ceiling. Now go back to story. Just for a moment, just think, without looking at the PowerPoint slide, just think. They want to come up with a price ceiling. Price ceiling means
the
maximum you can
maximum.
charge, yeah? So they think that it is too high. So they want to bring it down, right?
Mm,
That's what you have. See, you bring it down to 90.
okay. So
At
that's it?
90, yeah, at 90, see, you need to read what we need to call shortage, right? But you need to work out the
Mm,
shortage. Very simple. The supply is only 90 and there is demand is 120. Because this is what happens. When international news breaks out that UAE government has put a restriction for the hotel that they actually can't increase, it come down. A lot of people want to come here for the hotel, right?
yeah.
Very high demand, 120. But the people who own the hotels said, oh, it's not really good enough to invest in UAE hotel industry now. So some of them will close their business and go. So there's only 90 rooms available. There are 120 people available to take. There are 120 rooms in demand, right? So you have 30, that's a shortage. That's what we're talking about. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, good. Let's move on. Thank you. Right, so there's a shortage. Now there is 90 price floor. This is a bit confusing, but just get the whole idea here. Now, price flooring is usually put to pay people more, right? Now, sometimes what happens, the government can actually subsidize some industry. Now, subsidize some industry means they think, oh, hotel people are paid very low. We need to put a minimum price for them. That means anybody that come to UAE, minimum has to pay 500 dirhams for a room, right? Because it's just because they want to improve the hotel industry, right? So a 90 price floor, the price floor is minimum, remember? Think about that car wash. It always needs to go above the equilibrium. But this is below the equilibrium, doesn't make sense. So this is not binding. Okay? This is price floor, remember? And now the government comes at 120. Oh yeah, 120. Yeah, makes sense. So 120 is above the equilibrium of 100. Now, government really want to support this hotel industry and things. So price is high. Then the news goes out, hey, these hotels are so expensive in Dubai. And so the people do not come to Dubai much, right? So their demand is only going to be 60. But supply will be very high. All these new hotel companies will come in and start a hotel, but the supply is 120. So 120 is supply, but only 60 is demanded because it's too expensive, because government made a law to make it expensive, right? So there will be a shortage of, there will be surplus of 60. There's empty rooms. Nobody's taking the room because price is too high. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Let's move on. So what we're trying to say here is that markets are usually good way. Now, whenever I talk about market, it's usually demand and supply, okay? So what we're saying is that, yes, it's a good thing. Markets has a good way to do it. But when government tries to interfere, often it does that to help the poor people, but it can hurt more people as well because it just creates these issues. So those were the price flooring and price ceiling. Any question before we move on to the taxes?
I have a
All
question, yeah.
Sorry, what did you say?
I said I do. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Uru. Yes.
If the government knows that like putting these prices is gonna cause a shortage or surplus, then why are they asking for it?
Look, this is the idea, right? Usually when government tries to do this, it's to to assist a particular group. It might be the consumers or it might be the producers, right? But we can never we can never know what's going to happen to it, right? Remember, it's not about just increasing or decreasing the prices or put a price for price. It's by how much they put in, right? Of course, you all know the prices are going up, right? You all know prices are going up. So, that's not bad, really, to make a law saying that people should be paid more, right? But if they say everybody should get 5,000 dirhams per month increase in salary, well, that's not good because it's too much inflation and stuff. So it's not only about why they do it, don't they know what's going to happen? It really depends upon by how much they increase or decrease stuff by. Yeah. So yeah, just keep in mind. Now, government does know something will happen, but they can't predict it because this has to do with people. Some people might not respond. Some people might respond, right? It really depends how much and what sort of what do you call it? What sort of people you have and what they're thinking. What do they think about their future and all that sort of stuff. Sarah, go ahead.
Doctor, based on it's kind of related to her question. Is
Yes.
it where the principle in the chapter 1 where we took equality and efficiency cannot be equal?
Right. Very good thinking. Very good linkage. So what's happening here is that government somehow wants to have more equality here, right? They're saying that, okay, poor people get shut out of the market. They can't get the rental house and, they got trouble. And so they say, okay, we need to create some equality, right? We don't have landlords to have too much power, right? So perfect. That's exactly what it is. So, when the market is in equilibrium, it is efficient, right? But doesn't mean it's equal. And then similarly with minimum wage, right? You can have your car wash and things like that and very cheap. It's fine. It's cheap. It's fine. Why? Because there's a lot of labor. But does that necessarily mean that it's equal? Do you want just people, these car washing people only earn about $600, $700 dirhams a month? Is that enough for them? Well, if the government thinks it's not enough, they will increase they put a price flooring on it, right? It really depends. Depends on the thinking. Any other question? All right, good. So now we look into what we call taxes, right? Now, with taxes, a tax can be implemented on the buyers or the seller. Now, why did the government want to do the tax, right? We need tax for different things, right? When you ask the question, nobody ever thought that UAE will have tax, right? You do have tax now. You have company tax, and you also have VAT, right? Everything that you buy, you pay a 5% tax on it. Nobody thought that's coming, right? So taxes are part of it. Now, also we have tax for other reason. Well, it increases government's income, but we also have taxes to reduce the consumption of certain harmful items, right? For example, you might have sugary drinks. You might have cigarettes, right? These all are. So government can also put tax on that. Now, we're not interested in why they did the tax for, whether to revenue or whether to reduce. We're not interested. We're just going to see what's going to happen in the market, right? The government can put tax on the buyers or the sellers, right? So we just need to have a look at that, how that works. A tax can be a specific amount for per unit. So that means that, okay, for every loaf of bread that you buy, you pay 1 dirham tax, okay? It could be like that. Or it can be a percentage of what you buy. This is how the VAT works, right? You buy 100 dirhams worth of item, you add 5% of the 100, so you pay 105. It can also be a percentage. But we look at the per unit tax, okay? All right, let's have a look at this funny example of Apple. Apple is happy here. There's nothing wrong happening here. 10 dirhams a kilo, 500 kilos of apples are traded in the market. There's no tax, nothing. Everybody's happy. There's no shortage. There's no surplus. Now something happens here. Now they put a tax on 150 per unit tax on sellers. Right? So they're going to put a tax on sellers. So be very careful here. So my question to you is if they're going to put a tax on a seller, which line is it going to affect? If it's going to affect, is it going to affect the supply line, or is it going to affect the demand line?
Supply.
Perfect. Very well. Yes. Now, what's going to happen to supply when you put a tax on the supply? Are the suppliers going to supply more or less because of the tax?
They're
Less?
gonna supply more.
Oh,
Who said more?
Me.
oh,
Yeah. Who said new? Sorry, more?
Less?
Okay.
No, we
Right.
said completely different answers.
Right. Okay. So now I know this is you will think about, oh, I need to supply more to collect more tax. But remember, the tax doesn't come to you. Think about this tax. You used to sell your product at 3 dirhams. Now the government comes up to you and say, you need to pay 1 dirham extra tax on that, right? So as far as you are concerned, your expenses are gone up to produce that good, right? You make that bread, but also on the top of that, when you sell, you actually have to pay the tax to the government, or even when you produce, you have to pay a tax of the government. So what happened to your supply? Your supply is going to decrease. You notice that from 500, you're only going to supply 450. You understand that?
Yes.
Because it
I didn't
is
get
like
how this works.
it is like a cost. So you say that, okay, I don't like producing this apple anymore now. I'm not going to sell this in the market anymore now. Why? Because I have to pay tax on it. It's too expensive. I don't want to deal with it, right? So supply reduces. And see, something very interesting is happening here, okay? Supply reduces. Now you will think that the $10 that used to be priced should be $11.50, right? Because the tax is $150. But no, that's not going to happen. See, the price is only increased to 11. So the suppliers is only collecting extra 1 dirham from the people, right? Because this is what the people pay in the market. They are paying 11. But the government comes in and say, hey, give me $1.50. Well, I have to pay the government. There is no law. So I take a cut. I take a reduction in my price. So the price I receive after paying the government the tax is only $9.50. Do you understand that? So let me start one more time. The government imposes the tax, right? And hence the tax comes in. It's very expensive for you to produce that good now because you have to pay tax government, or your supply curve reduces. And then there's a new equilibrium. And you will notice the new equilibrium is only 11. So that's the price the consumers pay in the market. So you used to pay 10, now it's 11. But government comes in and say, you have to pay me 150 tax. So you pay 150 tax from 11, you only get 950 afterwards. So what I'm trying to say is that the sellers don't pass the whole tax amount to the consumers. They don't do that. They collect most of it from the people, right? So as far as the consumer is concerned, they are paying extra $1 now after the tax, right? Before tax, they only paying 10, but now they're paying 11. But before the tax, the producers who are suppliers were receiving 10 there. Now they only receive 950. So my question will be, if a tax on a seller is there, who bears the most burden? Now, in other words, this is difficult. It's not really difficult. What that means, who pays more tax than before when the tax was not there? So total tax is 150. Out of that 150, one is paid by the sellers. Sorry, one is paid by the buyers. Remember, they used to pay 10, now they used to pay 11. And 50 cents is paid by the sellers. So most of the tax burden, or most of the tax, is actually paid by the buyers. Sellers do take some cut, but smaller than the buyers. So even though the tax is on sellers, right, government is collecting from them, consumer pay most of the higher share of it. Highest share, okay? Share doesn't mean 50-50. Share can be anything. But what I'm saying is that the highest share is paid by the consumer. Any question on this?
Doctor, it's like a bit confusing with the prices. So can you give us another example?
Another example means like I can only change the number. I can't really do any example. Like all I'm trying to do is that just start with the basic here of saying, okay, here was an equilibrium. This is what I was paying, and this is what you're receiving. That's very important. I pay 10 dirham, $10 for my apple. You receive $10 for it, right? Because you
Yeah.
are the producer and the consumer. This is where we are starting. There's no taxes. What I pay, you receive, right? There's no government involved here. Now, then the government comes in and says that, hey, I'm going to tax you 150 per unit that you sell. So you're going to say, I'm not going to put much apple in the market. I'm going to reduce the supply of I need to do it because, need to sell some. So you reduce your supply. When you reduce your supply, see what happens. Don't get confused about this 11. It doesn't ever increase by the same amount. It goes and then there's a new equilibrium comes in. And that equilibrium is 11. Hey, the price used to be 10. Now it's 11. It's increased. Right? So you notice that, I used to go and pay $10 for my apple, now to pay 11. So I'm paying $1 extra, right?
Yes.
But remember, you paying $1 extra, but government wants 150. That is the original tax. So they can't run away from the government. You still have to pay government $1.50, and you only receive after paying from 11 150. You only receive 950.
Okay.
Make sense?
Makes sense. So sellers will pay 50 cents.
Correct, exactly.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do, we're going to split. Okay, if government is going to put a tax on some product, who is going to pay more? Who's going to pay less?
Okay. Is this, by the
Here?
way, all the time that
Yes,
buyers pay more?
usually it is like that. Usually it's consumer that actually pay most. There are certain exceptions, but we'll get onto that. But usually consumer pay the highest share. Make sense?
Yes.
Thanks, Sarah. Yes. Anybody else? It kind of makes sense what it is. Now, in your midterm, I'm not going to ask you to draw this, okay? What I'm going to do though is I'm going to give you the graph. For example, from this graph, right? I might ask 3 or 4 different types of question in this graph. I'll ask you first question. What was the price? Let me ask some of you. So I'll start with Heba. Heba, are you there? Are you there? Anybody else want to come in? I just want to demonstrate this.
Yeah, sure.
Hur, come on in, Hur. Yeah, stay on there. Okay, let me ask you. My first question will be, I'll give you this graph, okay? Forget about all these things I wrote on the side. I'll ask you a question here. What was the price before the tax was imposed? What was the tax? What was the price for Apple before the tax was imposed? What will you say?
$10.
Perfect. Very well. Very well. And now this is for Sarah. What is the price consumers are paying after the tax is imposed?
$11.
And how much is the amount of tax?
$1.
Amount of tax. Now,
It's
price the
150.
buyers pay and price the sellers pay, subtract them, you'll get the tax, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, here
So it's
I'm given in
150?
that. In exam, I would not give you this. I'll just give you the graph and you need to work all this out.
Okay.
Make sense?
Wait, doctor, I'm so sorry, but like so what's the answer for the question you gave me?
So, the question I gave you is, just by looking at this graph, forget about all of this. Just by looking at this graph, my question will be, a 1-mark question will be, tell me how much is the tax government collecting from this tax? Forget about all 150. Just look at this graph.
I subtract?
Yep. You basically subtract what the price buyer is paying, which is 11,
Mm.
and you
sellers.
subtract this 950 from 11. That's all.
Okay.
It's always like that.
Okay.
And the price buyers are paying are 11, and price the seller is paying is 950. Receiving. Sorry. All okay? You guys all right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. And now, other thing is you have tax on buyers. Now, this is interesting, the tax on buyers, right? So, now this time the government is not collecting tax from the seller, buyers. So what will happen here, Sarah? They are charging the tax on buyers. So as a buyer, will you increase to buy that product or decrease that product consumption?
A decrease.
Perfect. Here we go. Decrease. New equilibrium. Exactly same. See, the graph is exactly same, right? The only thing that is changing is the demand is reducing. So, but everything else on here is the same. What is the price the buyer's paying? Is 11, seller's receiving 950. That's all you need to think about. Now, other thing is, see, because this thing is exactly the same that's happening, right? I might ask you a question by looking at this graph. Can you tell me in this graph, is the tax being put or imposed on the buyers or the sellers? How would you know? Just seeing,
Is
looking
it
at
because
which.
you see that the demand curve shifted?
Perfect. Exactly. You guys are too smart. Very good. So you look at the demand, you can clearly say, hey, look, this is imposed on the buyers. If it's supply as the previous one, we can say that is imposed on the suppliers or the producers. Right? Exact same thing in here, doesn't change at all, is exactly the same. Okay, good. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. So how is the tax burden, right? You know, what we're trying to say is, yes, the buyers pay $1 more and the sellers get one less. So most of the tax effect is shared by the consumer. That's why we get the outcome is same in the both case. Does not matter whether it's imposed on the buyers, the sellers, the consumers pay more. Right, this is all okay. Now, the last part of this is now you learn that doesn't matter whether it's imposed on the buyers or the sellers, right? It's always the buyers bear the most burden. Okay, that's what it is. But now there's a little bit of change that happens here when I bring elasticity. Okay, now let me just bring that scenario here. What does it mean by supply is more elastic than demand? It's very simple. I'll just tell you. Supply is more elastic than demand means any tax on the market, suppliers are more elastic. Elastic means they are very sensitive, okay? Now listen up to me. If they are more sensitive to the price change, to the tax, what will the producers will do? As soon as the tax get imposed, they leave the market. They're not going to be in that market. So if they leave the market, who is going to remain in the market? The consumers, right? So who will bear the most burden?
Consumers.
Perfect. This is exactly what it is. Now, a very good example for that is medicines, okay? You all want medicine, right? Government supposed to put particular tax on a medicine. I mean, it's very unrealistic, but I'm saying example. So suppliers say, okay, we have to pay so much tax for this medicine, right? There were 5 companies making medicine, 3 of them left, right? There are only 2 remaining. But as far as the demand is concerned, the people will still need that medicine. So when the price goes up because of the tax, the consumers pay most of it. So this is the exception here. It depends on elasticity. Now, this is pretty straightforward in the sense that supply is more elastic, suppliers leave the market, consumers remain, so they bear the most burden. What if I reverse this? See, suppliers pay more, right? What if I reverse this? Demand is more elastic than supply. that means consumers are very sensitive. As soon as the tax comes in, consumers leave the market. But the producers are not as sensitive, so they stay in the market. So who bears the burden now?
Suppliers?
Correct, exactly. That's all it is. See, they are bearing the most burden. They are taking a big cut, but buyers only paying a little bit extra from the previous. So yeah, that's what we have, my friends. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yes, and what I'm doing is that I'm recording this and I'll upload this video for you, okay? All right. Well done, you all. And what I want to do is that if we are online on Wednesday as well, which might be, we'll see if we can do some sort of revision for midterm, okay?
Okay, Doctor.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't really know what's going to happen next week, whether we'll be in the campus or not. But if we are not in the campus, then midterm will be postponed, as I understand. But we don't know. Things can change last minute, right? But definitely, I'll upload this under week 6. I will upload the recording for you so you can go through it and listen to me again. Good one. Thank you very much, my friends. And you take care.
Thank you, Professor.